Hello, planet Earth. It's the Untamed Druid here. This is my first video I've ever made, just to create the YouTube channel Untamed. Um, and yeah, this is the video where I'm gonna go over why I'm making these videos, what the whole point is, what I'm even trying to get across. So, essentially, I've decided to make this. The idea is for it to be a podcast. I'm gonna have different people come on, different interviews with different people of, I would say, alternate opinion, but not really. We're not doing alt right, alt left paradigms here. The whole idea of this channel is to minimize, the polarization between both sides, if we want to talk about that. But really finding balance in a time of extreme, political polarization and just polarization in general. So, yeah, really focusing in on why things are polarized, how generally polarization's a false concept and things. And, really just trying to go at everything as unbiased as possible in an attempt to, just make it so that we can get along as people, talking to each other, you know, uh, doing all these things. And to me, I guess this gets the meat of the situation. Um, yeah, basically, there's a lot going on in the world these days that's psychological, which just means it's influencing you indirectly. So, with the, it's got to come up, so got to talk about it at some point. With in the modern, in America, the presidential race, um, to me really represents the ultimate. Oops, sorry. Really represents the ultimate in psychological warfare because, once you reduce people to being limited in their choices, um, there is no there's no way to become aware of the fact that all people exist, right? So in politics, somebody has to win. In sports, somebody has to win. In politics, somebody has to win. Um, the issue with politics is that no one is really winning, right? So we've got this whole situation and setup where there's lots of attention going to these people that already have a lot of money. They've already basically made it in life, and there's no light that goes to these people that have nothing. The people with the least continue to have the least. And they might have more than they did, 100 years ago, but they still have much less than everybody else, and we could say that that's just because that they're bad humans. They don't know what they're doing, they're fools. We can berate people all we want to, but, yeah, I just don't think it's effective. And, to me, the point of this channel specifically is to, kind of include, those outliers, the people that aren't include them in the conversation, and really emphasize that all people exist. We all exist. That's why we're here. That's why I'm doing the video. That's why you guys are watching it. It's because we exist. It's not because we don't exist. If we didn't exist, we wouldn't be doing this. And, yeah, basically, if if you're gonna pretend like something doesn't exist, or if you're gonna pretend that you can just marginalize people, and reduce them to a voice that you're not going to listen to, just, not because they're wrong, just you're not going to listen to them. To me, there's some implicit bias in there, and it's important, as someone who, kind of is obsessed with, logic and following not obvious patterns, but blatant, you know, your logic needs to be clear, for someone to be able to trust you. So, okay. Okay, yeah, so synopsis. I'm making this channel for me to be able to express my opinion specifically. And then also for interviews of different people that I know, different, pseudo experts, friends, just people with different backgrounds and life experiences that are generally not focused on, not included in big time productions. And I obviously don't have the best quality. I'm not. I don't have a 4K camera. I'm not out here trying to produce the top quality of content, because I think that that's really missing the point of what I'm saying, is that, my stuff isn't here to be the best person on YouTube. I'm not going to be the most skilled. I'm not going to, probably have the most interesting content. But what you're going to get from this channel is really genuine, open communication. There's going to be, little to no editing. Whatever YouTube requires, we're going to follow their guidelines. But, it's going to be straight talk. And, we're not going to agree necessarily. The people I have on here, I'm not going to preface anybody with any questions. I'm not going to do anything like that. We might actively disagree, on video, which is kind of the point. It's kind of like, Crowder or something. But not to mention specific people, just, really just challenging individuals to be able to communicate with each other is a huge issue we're dealing with right now. And to me, that's, there's no reason to not make videos, because, what else are you going to do? But, videos of people disagreeing and then getting over those disagreements, I think, that's really, everybody just learned through videos now. So, you have to have disagreements on video and, teach people how to deal with it, because there's nobody, how do you deal with conflict, when we don't actually have to interact with anybody at all at this point, depending on how privileged you are. So, yeah, just really trying to encapsulate humanity and lay down a basis of how we want to interact with each other, and if we can't have civil conversations over the computer when we're just looking at videos of each other, like, I don't think there's really a hope for humanity. So I think that this is a huge step, very necessary. And yeah, to me, this is a huge personal project. It's really taxing for me. I have like pretty extreme anxiety and depression. Been struggling with it for a decade now, and even producing content like this, which is just me sitting in front of a camera just talking, is excruciating. So I know for me, this is part of my personal coming to, because I am here, I'm talking, I'm very self-aware and self-critical, so it's like, ugh, all these words coming out of my mouth, like, ooh, who listens, who cares? But I think that's all part of the struggle, and it's a part of what we're dealing with, because no one cares if you're not saying anything. So yeah, so I just decided to join the fight, and who knows really, because we're not going to be, we're not trying to be controversial. We're just trying to talk about the whole gamut of, life or experience, and we're not going to not allow people to talk about certain experiences. So, and based on that, that could be, potentially controversial. Just there's that potential there. But I guess, yeah, now, and the idea when it's individual videos like this, I might do different presentations with different information and things. But really, the idea for my videos is that I don't want to produce or present anything that's fact-based, in so much that I'm not trying to be a teacher. I'm not trying to walk people through history. I'm not trying to be the guy at the front of the class that's just telling everybody what to think. The guy in the front says 2 and the people in the back say 4. I butchered that, but to me, we've proven that kind of system doesn't work. The person at the front might not know why 2 + 2 = 4, and so when someone in the back who says, why does 2 + 2 = 4, they don't get heard, and everybody else has the question but no one asks, because they're like, oh, that fucking guy. There's just a lot of reason to not play into that. So I'm not really trying to be anybody's teacher. I'm not trying to I don't want to say handhold, because some people do need the hand holding, and it's a part of the psychological issue, where some people, we've been alienated from each other so extremely that we don't, that people refuse to learn anything, and they were never told how to learn anything, and they were just given information, and they just absorbed it, and that's what they know, and they're confused that you're asking them to know anything. And so it's not really to put blame on people, but really to be a practical guide and a friend, internet friend, to people who need that kind of thing, because it's like, why, that's really what my goal is, and I do lots of different things in my own community and stuff, but being on YouTube, I think really this is supposed to be, you can sit here and watch me. It's not very interesting. I'm just kind of sitting here staring at the video of myself, so it's like weird. But it's meant to be viewed as a podcast. And so what I'm going to be trying to do when it's just me is giving people practical, applicable information, and also basically rundowns or like breakdowns of different methods of application of awareness. What do you want? Hi, kitty. There you go. Hi. The cat's here. Good kitty. Anyway, so yeah, different ways to apply alternative thoughts about the world, So, like, I've been really getting into things like, different YouTube channels like Robert Seffer and Mind Unveiled, and individuals like Michael Tessarian. One second. Okay, kind of forgot what I was saying, but yeah, really just practical applications for alternative thinking, which is sounds like what? Basically, it's being able to take your own mind and apply it to something and learn, basically. I don't want to say I'm trying to teach people how to learn because that sounds somewhat contrived, but it's really teaching people how to allow themselves to be able to learn, because it really has little to do with me or whoever you're interacting with, and it's much more about you as an individual not limiting yourself as you enter into whatever you're trying to learn. So many people, the biggest example that I can think of is like science, or history. Science and history are interesting in the fact that there is no right way to interpret, like history. Like, we have kind of a recorded history of existence as far as we have one, and there's no real way to look at the story of history and say what's happened. There's like no, there is a story of history, but there's no way to look at that story and interpret it in a single way. So it's, and then of course, you can do that, but it's really detaching yourself from that implicit kind of narrative that's already existing. When you go to learn history, you're like, okay, now I'm going to go learn history, and I'm going to follow this narrative or this story, that's being told to me about what happened. And it's, there's no just look at the wars and decide what happened. It's let me explain. Like, people will get obsessed with the names, George Washington crossed the Delaware River, you know, like all of that. I don't even know when it happened, but as if that individual, specifically George Washington, was, you know, it matters who that person was, right? So, and it's not that George Washington doesn't matter, it's just more that what I'm talking about is realigning your thinking instead of, okay, now who crossed the Delaware River, on this specific date. It's like, well, instead of caring about that because you implicitly care about, America, so you're learning about American history because you want to know about America, instead of having that bias, just try to understand overall what happened, if that makes sense. So it's really stripping down all of these seemingly important details. Who did what, when did it happen, all of those things. When it happens, there's definitely value to knowing when stuff happens, but it's really not getting bogged down by those details that are kind of spurious, and more being able to actually see what is being communicated on such a level, or on the level of actual information of importance to the individual. If you want to know how to pass a history test, well, you just look at, what happened throughout history. If you're trying to study, the Civil War, you don't go in and study all of the names of the different battles that people fight, and the names of the different people, and the dates, and all of that. None of that matters at all. Like, you could just not know any of that, and nothing would change. But if you knew basically the story of the setup of both sides, and you just see the occurrence, you just acknowledge that there was a civil war in America, and like it's yeah, getting a lot less caught up on the, the nouns basically. Nouns, we like to pretend that nouns are important because we think of ourselves as nouns, and it's further from the truth. But anyway, so yeah, really just giving people practical application of that kind of thinking, where you're not obsessed with, who crossed the Delaware River on what given date and why does that matter. It's, there was the North and the South, and then breaking down, things that exist, like power structures, and just the relation to the South to the rest of the world, and doing things like that. Not really sure where I'm going with that. So, oh, and then there will be talks of, different occult things, magic, and basically the application of magic is largely what I'm talking about, because through magical thinking we can really understand history as a set of circumstances that lead to now, instead of some kind of, just alien thing that happened before and now we're at where we're at. And my first idea of something practical is really, to me, one of the, it's the most important basis of most of the stuff that I do in my personal time is numerology. And it's really just the idea that numbers have significance baked into them, and that it's kind of inseparable. And this idea is echoed through basically anything that involves numbers. But this is all going to be abstract until you understand how to practically apply it. So basically, you start with 0. 0. So 0 is nothing, right? There's nothing. Okay. And from that nothing comes the awareness of nothing, right? So for there to be nothing, and for it to be able to be acknowledged that there's nothing, there has to be something, which implies that the nothing that there is actually something. So from nothing you get 1, and from 1, which is, it's obviously my finger, but if this is a 1 and was detached in just this segment, here's the starting point, here's the ending point, or whatever. These 1, 2, the start and an end. The 1 implies the 0 implies the 1, which implies the 2. The 2 has the starting point. It's okay, sorry. Yeah, I should have this written down, but the 2 has 3 points of intersection. The 3, 1, 2, 3, and then itself is a 4. So it's all of these. If you, that's what I mean. I'm not going to be really. It's more of a guide because I'm just introducing these concepts. Until I have, until we're having interviews and stuff. There's no way to, really provide application of this, but that's why the interviews are super important. But yeah, numerology is, it's basically Genesis, if you want to get into the Bible and stuff. I am Christian, I'm a Catholic, but that's what I was born into. I did get confirmed and all that stuff, so I am pretty far along into it. I don't really go to Catholic church, like regularly, but to me, it's still part of my essential ideology, and it's like just a part of me. So I come out and say that because I'll often refer to the Bible or Jesus, and just so that it's clear that I do have a stance on that, but I would consider myself a Gnostic Catholic Rastafarian. So, it's like we can have that conversation, but it's not really that important. But it's basically that anything that is taught in school, any kind of system, any kind of basically any kind of information can be understood through numerology, and the idea of what do you call them? Where you have those stand-in words, to remember people's names. Michael does it on The Office. He just says, fatty, and just to remember people based on their characteristics, their personal characteristics. But that idea is basically what we're dealing with here, and it's the numerology. The numbers act as a representative of these further concepts that are that can be extrapolated and applied to anything, and they basically are. And this is a hack into understanding, whatever subject it is that you want to understand. Because once you see the relation, you can relate anything to this interchange of numbers, and it kind of fits the same paradigm. So it minimizes what you have to know, basically, because this pattern of numbers, the 1 to 9, or 1 to 10, but 0 to 9 is, and then the 1 and the 0 already exist in the 0 to 9, so 0 to 9. This pattern that you can see once you study numerology, it literally applies to every single thing that happens in the world, which is, where I'm going to lose people. That's why I call it alternative. But, it's not really supposed to be, a codex, or like I've got this secret, because it's not really a secret, because it's not used for sightseeing or anything. It's not really supposed to be for divination. You can use it for that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using it as a tool for learning, basically. It's not anything about gaining powers or having an advantage over somebody. It's just literally understanding that, anything from your body to, the design of a cell, the design of an atom, anything science that you want to get into, if you correctly apply this numerology, it makes it so that, you still have to learn, you still have to know, prokaryotic cell, eukaryotic, I don't know, just all the different science words and stuff. You still have to have that level of, the nouns are important, but it's to me, it's just a basic cognition skill that they don't teach in school, because it's, I don't want to say a cheat, but it allows you to focus less on what they're trying to drill into you, which is the nouns and things, and it allows you to step back from, what you're doing in your everyday life, and trying to understand, why did this happen, or just ask any questions at all, have any personal interest at all. So to me, it's part of the process of becoming untamed. And I got Untamed from Michael Sarian, his Unslaved podcast. It's really where I got that idea, that just uncolonized, basically. And there might be some debate about my use of that word, but really the colonization of the modern mind is pretty excruciating. So really to become aware that, you know, people are trying to control you, people are controlling the information that you have access to, and you know, people are trying to control how you interpret what you're interpreting, is really my reason for making this channel and this video. Now that I've just pulled lentil soup out of my beard. Yeah, so becoming aware of the power structures, becoming aware of the implicit processing that goes on, how, you know, with it, without even blinking, you know, there's just a certain way things are understood. You know, that's not really, those aren't signs of a free and prosperous society. And I just believe that there are, you know, there's people that want to be able to take care of themselves. You know, I think there's people that want to be able to listen to themselves, you know, and they don't want to just go to some authority. You know, they don't want me to be out here teaching them, you know, like, this is this means this. You know, I don't think that people want that. I think that that's belittling, and I think that people would like to, you know, be able to discern for themselves what is valid and what's not. And, you know, to me, that's the only, you know, anything beyond that is, you know, it's just being enforced, which is, you know, if people can't, if average everyday people can't process what you're saying as someone who's standing up there as a representative for them, you know, this is me just doing what I'm doing on my free time. So if I'm not connecting with people, you know, it's like, I don't, you know, I'm trying to, but I can't really help that. But if someone is a politician who's like, I represent you, right? And, but regardless of that, they do nothing that benefits you in any detectable way. I think that is not something that's desirable. You know, I think that it's very important for the survival of the country. You know, and just the survival of individuals. You know, for people to be able to question what they want to question and think about things in the way that they want to think about it. And you know, I think it's necessarily important for this alternative thinking style to catch on, because it makes you more accurate about what you're saying. You might not have the facts on your side, which, you know, I'm not claiming to be a fact person. I kind of despise facts in a way, because it's just, people will think that you're wrong because you don't have the facts. They're like, oh, how prove that? And it's like, well, you know, I'm not saying anything that you can prove or disprove. I'm saying things that are the truth, which is, you know, it's not gonna make sense, because it's like, oh, what do you mean you say the truth? You know, you got an ego. Your ego's the size of Texas. You know, but you know, it's more. Like, I'm not trying to benefit from what is being communicated, right? I'm simply trying to communicate in a way that you know, wakes that sense of urgency, you know, and wakes that sense of individual ability, you know, that's hopefully I can edit this out. I'm not really good at editing. I just got my camera and this microphone, so we'll see what, if this stays or if this goes. But if this stays, I'm gonna just keep talking. I'm probably gonna do like a half-hour video, see if I can. So I guess for the next like 4 minutes, and an application. So yeah, basically, I'll talk about duality right now. Um, so as I said with the numerology, with the idea is, from nothing exists the concept of there being something, because for nothing to exist, for that to be acknowledged, then something has to exist, so that a lack of something can be acknowledged. So nothing existing implies that something exists, which implies and that something is one. Uh, and that basically that's the formation of duality. And then the two is basically the two-headed dragon. You know, it's the both sides of the coin. You know, you go from nothing to one, and then one. There's two different faces of the same one. And that's what the duality is. So the real duality is, from nothing to something, and then what the duality that most people try to deal with is the duality of the two faces of the same coin. Now, sorry, I was just shaking the camera. So, ooh, my shoulders, man. The problem with duality in the modern times is the biggest duality that we have is the political sphere. And the issue with this, with the political discourse, essentially, is that, and they'll tell you this, you know, both political parties, you know, I say both here in America, you know, and there's more than two political parties, but you know, you're crazy if you vote for someone outside of, you know, Republicans or Democrats. So, yeah, but this duality is obviously present here because, you know, you vote Democrat or Republican, doesn't really matter. They both represent the already, you know, formed government. You know, so it doesn't matter. You know, the differences in opinion exist. You know, and you know, but it's not really, you know, regardless of who you're voting for, nothing different is essentially happening, you know, because there's no, you know, President Trump was the biggest outside influence that we've ever had in the White House, and he, you know, unless you're just completely pro Trump, there are many things that he had opportunities to do if he was, you know, truly a champion of the people. He could have done a lot more things that would have, I think, endeared him to a lot more people that were much more questionable about him and what he was doing. So, yeah, it's really, once you get into it, there's no difference, actually, because you know, it's the same. It's a continuation of the same thing already, you know, and it's the passing of the torch that delegitimizes the effectiveness of that government. You know, it's the lack of open debate that delegitimizes the government. You know, it's not that, you know, it's not that I'm an anarchist fully. I definitely believe in, you know, central, not centralized government, but definitely government. I don't necessarily that was weird. My computer just shut off. Uh, anyway, yeah, so the duality of life is really the wholeness of life. And, you know, viewing these opposing forces as separate from each other is, you know, it's a lot of most of the issues that we're dealing with. And many people can't even take a step back and just breathe to be able to see that these are the same forces, you know, and they're so caught up in, you know, eating all of this social media, you know, garbage, that it's really easy to think that your side is right, you know, or wrong. The other side's wrong, you know. And it's you know, there's really a resistance to ask the question, why am I on a side at all? Why did I, you know, why am I funneled into this, you know, single stream of thought? And that's really what I'm trying to emphasize. It's just like, who knows if either side is correct, you know, because it's, you know, best case scenario, each side's probably 100% correct about 50% of the time, you know. So once you get to that, it's just like, well, then, you know, why be on either side in any kind of set way, you know? Once you get to that point, it's like, well, let's open the discourse. Let's see, you know, let's just actually have debates about this instead of, you know, pretending like it's football or, you know, some sport. So, yeah, sorry that was a little long-winded. I'm gonna try to have a little more direction, a little more purpose, but I really just wanted to get this video out here because, yeah, this is my first one, so just to see what the whole process is, introduce myself, and yeah, introduce just throughout the concept of what we're trying to produce over here. Yeah, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. There should be probably one at least one video a week. If I can think of content and context, I'm gonna try to do one as often as possible. But yeah, hitting that little bell will you know, subscribe you to the channel and update you with any notifications if you really wanted to do that. So yeah, thanks for having interest, and thanks for watching.